Good evening, everyone. This is Logan Giles for StormInterceptor.com on your 11 o'clock update on what is still Hurricane Sally. As you can see in the satellite image, there's a lot of dry air getting into the system. However, it is still expected to become a stronger storm as it makes landfall in Mississippi. Now, if if we look at the latest advisories from the National Hurricane Center, which just came in, winds of tropical storm force, so at least 39 miles an hour, have arrived for the extreme coastline of Alabama and parts of Florida. Now, if you are not in those winds yet, you are expected to be in those winds by as earliest as 2 a.m. So in a few hours, you all in Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama, as well as Florida, will be inside those tropical storm force winds. Now let's talk about the latest forecast cone. So the latest advisory still has Sally making landfall as a hurricane. However, time has slowed down again. At the 5 o'clock advisory, landfall was supposed to be at 2 a.m. Wednesday, which would slow down even more from Tuesday night. So from Monday night. So this storm has slowed down a lot. It is only moving at 3 miles an hour to the west-northwest. So it's not a very fast mover. This will also contribute to extreme flooding and storm surge, which I'll get to later on. Now let's see the interactive map to see the landfall stats, how fast this thing's going to be exactly. At the last update, I believe it was around 95 miles an hour, which would make it a borderline Category 2 hurricane. The Hurricane Center has this making landfall as a 100 mile an hour Category 2 hurricane. For your latest interest, a major hurricane is 115 miles an hour. While they have this getting at 110, so it's supposed to strengthen, and it's supposed to strengthen to a 110 mile an hour storm, which is just shy of a major hurricane. So this thing does have a chance as a major hurricane, but again, as you can see, the satellite is not super impressive. There's a lot of convection, but there's a lot of dry air eating at the southern and eastern side, and we will see how Sally eventually evolves. Whether that blow up near the center gets it going, I really wouldn't be concerned about those erratic blow ups near the center circulation. Really be concerned about those impacts. Like most storms, the category is not going to matter a whole lot, but impacts will. I will touch base on that later on in this live update. So, moving on to the latest, to more graphics from the Hurricane Center. So this is a water storm, or impacts that will feature storm surge and rainfall. Let's start with the storm surge. So the forecast was decreased a little bit. It was 7 to 11 feet from Dauphin Island to the mouth of the Mississippi, but it has been decreased because the landfall is supposed to be for the east, and that is why storm surge has been decreased a bit. Still very life-threatening. If that surge is above 3 feet, it's going to flow cars and cause problems to survive. So 6 to 9 feet is still pretty large. It's still pretty problematic. So please take precautions along the Mississippi and Louisiana coastline. Now, the reason why storm surge was 7 to 11 feet is because the nature of the coastline is concave. It acts like a funnel. This is what forecasters look for when forecasting storm surge. Also, the bathymetry, or the depth of the ocean or the Gulf shore at the bottom or the surface, is relatively gradual incline. So that also aids in storm surge for parts of Mississippi and Louisiana, as well with Mobile Bay. You notice they have higher storm surge forecasts than places like Dauphin Island, which is just south of them. Why? Because as you can see, the bay once again acts like a funnel and it's going to force in more storm surge, which will cause some major problems for the bay, as well as Mobile, Alabama. Now, in terms of rainfall, which is perhaps the biggest threat from Sally, it has been fairly consistent, it has, although we did have forecasts of 20 inches of rainfall for the mouth of the Mississippi, but that has fortunately dropped. New Orleans, you were on the very edge of very damaging rainfall, of excess of a foot of rain. You have fortunately escaped this, only expecting 1 to 2 inches of rainfall, as well with a few feet of storm surge. So, folks, New Orleans, storm surge is your main threat. Along the coastline of Mississippi and Alabama, which is the main threat of this for rainfall, you're talking about over a foot of rain, maybe even a foot and a half. This is not just a coastline threat for rainfall, even inland into Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina. You can expect at least a half foot of rain up to double-digit totals possible. Also, parts of those areas could see 4 to 6 inches. So this is not going to be just a coastal event like Hurricane Florence. It's also going to be a substantial inland flood threat. While I'm not expecting the rain totals to be even close to Florence away from the coast, they will still cause rivers to rise and cause inland flooding. Now, with flash flooding, the Weather Prediction Center has issued a Day 3 high risk, which was issued yesterday, which was issued 2 days ago for the third time ever. The previous times the Day 3 high risk for excessive rainfall was issued for Hurricanes Harvey and Hurricane Florence, and we all know how those turned out. While again, totals may not reach those away from the coast, they will still be extremely dangerous and life-threatening. Now, this is a satellite image earlier in the daytime. Hurricane Sally looked a lot more impressive on satellite. It had very strong bursts of convection. You see all of those hot showers or the cloud tops of -80 to -90 degrees Celsius, and it looked really good. And then the dry air started to make its way in, and this is what it looks like now. It's still a very strong hurricane, and it's still going to bring dangerous impacts. Again, do not look at that category and say, oh, it's only going to be a category 1 right now. Oh, it's only going to be cat 2 at landfall. Should I really be ready? Should I really have many hours prepared? The answer, of course, is no. You should be ready for life-threatening storm surge and rainfall. In addition, large waves of excess of 15 to 20 feet are expected. Pile it onto the storm surge and rainfall. This is going to be a very impactful event in terms of water. We have seen this many times before when the impacts outweigh the scale, and this is no exception. And looking at the day-to-day forecast from the Weather Prediction Center regarding rainfall, there's a high risk for rainfall, for excessive rainfall, for parts of the extreme southeast Mississippi and extreme southwest Alabama. So places like Mobile, Alabama, Biloxi, Mississippi, and even Pensacola, Florida can expect those damaging impacts from rainfall. As well, moderate risk, which includes inland areas of Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, and a little bit of Louisiana, while a slight risk, which can still cause problems, although your big day for flooding will be Wednesday, is issued for areas away from the coast. Now, when we talk about Wednesday, which is when the inland areas will receive the most rainfall, you're talking about a moderate risk, which is a 20 to 50% chance, which is stronger than most people think, which means a good chance of flash flooding from rivers rising, urban flooding in the streets, parts of much of Alabama, and the extreme portion of the Florida Panhandle, as well into Georgia. That risk will extend into the Carolinas, better chance in the upstate region of South Carolina, Now, if you look at the total rainfall over 5 days, once this loads up, there we go, you'll see there's an extreme amount of rainfall for that area. You can expect over half of the rain in the forecast for those inland areas in the cyan orange color. Now, let's get to the threats of water in more detail. Again, once the site loads, hopefully this site loads, okay, there we go. So flooding, of course. So rivers will flood. Unfortunately, I try to get the Southwest River Forecast Center gauges, but they did not want to show the forecast in the few days. So here we are. We're just going to do Mississippi and Louisiana. So let's start off with, okay, my trackpad is acting funny. Okay, so this is the Biloxi River. So this is away from the coastline. It is expected to reach major flood stage on Wednesday afternoon, which is after landfall. So all of that water is going to be forced down into the river, which is going to cause substantial flooding. So actually, I apologize. This is right at landfall. I'm still used to saying when it was supposed to make landfall Tuesday night. This thing has slowed down a bunch. So right after landfall, that's when those rivers are going to reach the maximum height. Now, let's zoom out so we can get a better picture of this. Orange Grove, which is just north of Pascagoula, you are expected to be just shy, as of now, just shy of record flood stage. I'm not sure when that record was, maybe during Ivan or something, but you are expected to be near record flood stage Wednesday night due to, again, the rainfall. Now, if we go even more inland towards Hattiesburg, they don't show that. That's strange. So you're expected to see some water rise in Hattiesburg, but I don't see any flooding risk from this one. Flood stage is 22 feet. You're supposed to reach 10 feet. Okay, so I guess no flooding in Hattiesburg. Now, the Pascagoula River, you are expected to reach some pretty substantial flooding on, this time it's going to be on Thursday. So well after landfall of Sally, that's when those rivers are going to rise. We see this very often in landfalls from hurricanes and tropical systems. When the water rushes down the river, we saw this in Conway, South Carolina, when the Waccamaw River rose, and 2 weeks later, after Florence made landfall, they had record flooding. So while the forecast is not calling for record flooding for the Pascagoula River, you can expect your highest river flooding well after landfall. Let's try to get New Orleans. They don't really show a lot of... So again, the main issue is going to be a lot of river flooding, inland flooding away from the coastline. Now let's get back to storm surge. Once this page loads again. Okay, there we go. This is a really good site I like to use during the event, after the event, and even before. It's called Tides and Currents. You can just search it up. It's a really good NOAA site. So let's start off with Shell Beach, Louisiana, which is in the forecast of 6 to 9 feet. They have received some storm surge of excess of 3 feet. So they are getting storm surge right now. So as of now, as of 11:24, it looks like they're at 3.75 feet of surge. So that's right now. So that's well before landfall. Landfall is going to be Wednesday morning. It's Monday night. And you're already seeing water rising. And as high tide comes tomorrow, the surge will only increase. There wasn't a huge dip in this, so that surge will rise quite a bit. Next up on the list is Waveland, which is just west of Gulfport, Mississippi. So pretty much anywhere from Louisiana to the Big Bend of Florida, like Cedar Key, has received storm surge. So we're just looking at those amounts right now. Again, the center of Sally is still, it's close to shore, but landfall is only going to be on Wednesday. it's such a slow mover. Storm surge will just pile on. So Waveland, you're looking at just under 2.5 feet of storm surge right now. So some minor issues probably in Waveland. In Bay St. Louis, which is near the border of Louisiana and Mississippi, I did see some roads that were nearly impassable. So flooding's already happening. So here is Pascagoula, which the eye or the center of Sally is supposed to cross right nearby. So Pascagoula, you are at, again, a common theme throughout the coastline, 2.5 feet. So I'm not going to go through the whole list of these locations, but the common theme right now is about 1 to 3 feet of surge, while Shell Beach, you're almost at 4, because again, of that onshore flow, because it's facing north, you have those winds from the northeast just piling on. So that's why you have all of that storm surge. Now, let's take a look at the current radar right now. So the core has been trying to wrap around a bit and trying to get more organized, but it's just having a hard time with that, with all that dry air to the south. But it does have a pretty good shield of rain to the north, which parts of the Florida Panhandle, like Apalachicola, have received over 3 inches of rain tomorrow. And as the wind field expands, so will the precip shield, as well with the storm surge. So Sally's going to act like a big funnel. Once the wind field expands, it's going to shove in water. It's going to pile onto those places along the coastline, as well with increase the rain shield, which will bring those totals up to possibly over 1 to 2 feet of rainfall. Alright, so back to some other stuff. So I have just created a thing called Patreon, which you can get exclusive access to the stuff I do. I will be more active on this. So if you just pay $1, which is less than the price of coffee, you can get an exclusive blog and video on weather in Delmarva, as well as the featured stories across the country. These will all be released 2 hours before the public sees them. So you will see them first before anyone else does. I feel this is a great thing for people that want exclusive things. And if you want to be the first person to be on board, this is a great start for you. But if you want to get some more stuff all about you'll get all those items for $5. You can get forecasts only for you. So you can send me an email, you can send me a message on Patreon or Twitter asking for a forecast just for you, and I will do that. And I will make a detailed information about what stuff I look at and how I make these videos. So if you want to be a forecaster, I can help you with that. Now, Tier 3, this is when things ramp up a bit. This is when you get a lot cooler stuff. So you get all benefits from Tier 1 and 2. So again, that exclusive access plus those forecasts only for you. Plus you get access with no limits to my unmanned cameras, which I've nicknamed the SITs. Not to be confused with the SATs, of course. These are cameras that will be placed with extreme strategy, where no person can be safely. So whether that be a storm surge of over 10 feet, those cameras will be there. People might know Mark Sudduth or HurricaneTrack.com. Here's my inspiration from this. I also had help from Mike Ramley. I hope I'm saying that right. He gave me a lot of help on that. So you're not going to only see those images and videos from hurricanes, which is what these are mainly for, but also winter storms and severe storms. I am on Delmarva and Salisbury, so we occasionally get winter storms, mainly coastal impacts, but occasionally we do get some snow. I might even chase some in the Northeast this year because they get pretty nice blizzards. And you might even see a tornado on them. So these are not going to be just for hurricanes, also for winter storms and severe storms. Also, also, you will see the detailed plan of my upcoming storm chasing plans. The public will not see these. I will probably post I'm targeting blah blah blah. I'm targeting somewhere else. I'm targeting somewhere, but I will tell you a detail of where I am going and why. No one again, no one else is getting these, only you. And I don't consider myself an expert storm chaser, but I have chased a bit and I do have some experience. So I will tell you some strategies of storm chasing, such as where do you want to be and why, what to look for in a storm, when it's intensifying, weakening, when it's becoming outflow dominant, when's the inflow coming. And with hurricanes, although I haven't chased a hurricane yet, I do have some insight on what to prepare for. And I will post, and then I might make a sticker of the logo if you want it down the road. Now tier 4, which is the bigger one, so you'll get all the items beforehand, of course, and you'll get the behind the scenes of setting up for storm chasing and just driving down the trip, like what I'm seeing, what are the conditions. And I will also tell you how I set up my unmanned cameras. So what is inside them? How do I set them up? You will get access to this and no one else but you if you sign up for this. So what camera gear do I use for my photography? So like what camera body do I use, what lens, and what settings? So picture of sunrises, sunsets, astrophotography, storms, all that stuff. And I'll also give you special shout outs at the end of the blogs and videos. So you can be a producer of some sort. And if you're a tier 4 supporter for more than 3 months in a row, you will be able to insert your own forecast. So what you want your stuff to show in the blogs, you will be doing this as well. So please consider signing up for the Patreon. The best deal, I think, is the tier 2 because forecast is for you. Also, I love tier 3 because you get access to my cameras, which I know you all are familiar with Mark Sudduth. He does really good stuff. He's down on the coast now of Mississippi doing those cameras, so look for stuff from him. But these cameras are really great. I'm really excited to use them. I'm actually testing Sit 1 tomorrow at the Ocean City Inlet in Maryland because we're supposed to get some waves. No flooding, but just a good test. So that's that. So again, if you do want to consider signing up for this, please do. And as always, stay safe, and I will see you all tomorrow.